What is your favorite superhero film and why? Dark Knight. It's what made me love Batman. The Dark Knight was more like a supervillain movie where the good guys lose everything to win against the bad guy. The Joker's character was written so well. It needed a performance of a lifetime and Ledger delivered it. I have a certain nostalgia for the original Robert Downey Jr. or Iron Man. It had lots of humor, a good origin story and a decent romantic subplot. Mostly, though, I wasn't burned out by the dozens of superhero movies that have been produced since and come to dominate the movie market. I loved the original suit. It seemed really heavy, and I loved the little servo motor sounds. Dread Duck. That movie blew my mind. Went in with low expectations and it basically gave me exactly what I wanted in an action movie. No filler, just pure action. Edit. Also gave me my man crush on Carol Urban. Such a badder. In case you have forgotten, this block operates under the same rules as the rest of the city. Mama is not the law, I'm the law. As for you, Mama, judgment time. Into the Spider-Verse. I wanna see an X-Men in that style. The Incredibles is up there for me. Such wholesome. I love how The Incredibles is in a lot of ways a meta commentary on superheroes before superhero movies and the subsequent meta superhero commentary movies became big. Logan. I loved Logan because it wasn't a superhero movie where the protagonist is trying to save the world or the universe where millions of lives are at stake. It was just a man at the end of his life trying to do the right thing for the people he cared about. Spider-Man 2. I think The Dark Knight might be a better film, but Spider-Man 2 is a better superhero film. I love how Peter is the main character and it's his struggles to balance life with being Spider-Man that makes the movie so good. The guy has such bad luck you can't help but feel for him. When he gives up being Spider-Man his life finally starts to come together and you are so happy for him. That's when he realizes, when he saves the kid from the burning building and finds out that someone never made it out. If he doesn't save them, who will? It's not his powers that makes him a hero. It's the fact that he is just an average guy struggling in New York, so he gives up having a life to help the little guys. Because he is one. When I was young I never knew why he was losing his powers, but when I rewatched recently it was his love for MJ and that exact issue that Dr. Octavius was saying about storing love inside, and it will make him sick. It has everything you could want from a superhero movie. Likeable main character, compelling villain, campy fun and amazing action. Perfect movie for my favorite character in all of fiction. I was hoping this would be on here. Makes you care about the characters. Good mix of humor and drama, and some of the most epic fight scenes and set pieces. At the time it was considered to be the best superhero movie and it still deserves to be up there. Constantine is full of amazing moments. I love that movie. The scene where the devil crawls down from the ceiling. So good. Guardians of the Galaxy. The humor had me hooked. On a feeling. Perhaps. Thor, Ragnarok. It's very funny and just ton of memes. Piss off, Ghost. Might catch flack for this but Sky High. Not the best movie by any means, but I enjoyed it, and it brings back some good memories. I love Sky High. It's so damn corny and silly, but in the best way. Been a lot of great ones mentioned, but I'm really partial to Hellboy. Such a great film and the sequel was also fantastic. Any thoughts on the new one? Kick-A, I just love how silly it is, but still almost kind of believable. My fave scene, Yato. The scene where Big Daddy is burning alive and still instructing Hit Girl in tactics and what to do, had me in tears. Deadpool. Suits my type of humor and the action is perfect. You can pinpoint the exact moment that Reddit fell in love with Ryan Reynolds, as when this movie was released. You couldn't get a more perfect casting. Edit, grammar. Batman, 1989, because it is so dark and grimy. Exactly how I have and always will think of Batman. I loved Tim Burton's Batman films. I was totally gonna write this. The best thing about these movies is definitely the noir atmosphere and the music. Watchmen. However rushed and inelegant it was, compared to the original source, it nevertheless stayed true to the original's terrific plot and characterizations. Thus, it almost couldn't help but be a great film, regardless of the source material being more cohesive. Went and saw this with my dad opening night. Best part of the whole movie was counting how many families rushed out of the theater. One particularly intrepid family of 5 made it all the way through the bone-crunching violence and sex scene, only to finally be forced to leave when a guy got his arm sawed off. Blade. Favorite Marvel character? Some muffled duckers always trying to ice skate uphill. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Not just the storyline is almost impeccable and amazing, but the soundtrack is it. So many different vibes and diversity to use. Plus it was about time we got a Spider-Man that wasn't Peter Parker as the protagonist. And the way they framed and shot so much of it to look like a comic book was super cool. D. Spider-Man 2. Perfectly depicts the character and why he is so relatable as just a kid. He's just a kid. A 29-year-old kid. Removed. Gonna shamelessly copy plus paste my answer here because it will just be buried below. Captain America, the Winter Soldier is amazing. It took my least favorite MCU Avenger, a USA cardboard cute out of a goody 2 shoes and forced him to deal with complicated situations that weren't as black and white as they used to be. He grew so much through the course of that film that he became, and remains, my favorite of the MCU Avengers. It presented a very different kind of superhero movie, almost a political slash spy thriller, that just happened to star Marvel characters. And to top it all off, they slipped in a very relevant theme of digital privacy, government surveillance, and lack of oversight and accountability, without bashing anyone over the head with it. And that's just the film itself. To say nothing of the massive shift in the status quo that, to be honest, I didn't think they would have the balls to do, and really kicking off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which had been pretty good until the crossover episode, and became ducking awesome afterwards. TMNT 1990. Honestly, that movie has stood the test of time by miles. The costumes still look perfectly acceptable compared to aged CGI. The tone and violence levels were perfect. It's a little heavy for younger kids, but maybe I'm just older now. Like I can't stomach watching Splinter say goodbye to the turtles anymore, but I've lost my pops so it's probably just on me. Mystery Men, if only because of the Smash Mouth song. But there was so much more to love about the movie. Waffle Moa and I am the Waffler golden crispy bad guys are history. If I was sober I'd say Winter Soldier or Wonder Woman, but I'm had 3 drinks so Shazam had a really strong heart to it, honestly. I loved that movie. Billy and his siblings are all genuinely great characters and yeah, really rooting for them the whole film. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. Love those films. Edit. I don't know what I would do still. Have I been targeted for a determination? Join us r/Raymums. Megamind. Case closed. And I love you random citizen. Unbreakable. Such a good movie. It works so well because it makes comic books integral to its story. It's a firmly grounded origin story in what should be the twilight of any other superhero's origin story, because power can come only when you let it come. It uses cinematography to make it look like a comic book. It uses color to show themes. It's just perfection. V for Vendetta. Literally watching it right now, everybody is special. Everybody is a hero, a lover, a fool, a villain. Everybody has their story to tell. X-Men. First clap. I thought that was a great reboot to the franchise. And can I just say, Michael Fassbender during that scene when he was in Argentina finding Nazis. Wow. First Class is the only movie that, for me, feels anything like the X-Men of the comics. Easily my favorite of those. Superman, 1978. It'd been years since anyone had taken superheroes seriously at all, and the casting was so good. I was old enough to have seen it in the theater and was blown away. I'm only 18 and wholeheartedly blame my parents for my love of Superman. I was going through the attic one day, I was like 5, so this was in like 2006, and I found a VHS tape of Superman, took it downstairs, and watched it, and instantly fell in love with Superman. There will never be a better Clark Kent or Superman than Christopher Reeve. They nailed all the roles, in that from Superman to Lois and Lex. My favorite line from the movie is "I've got you ma'am. You got me. Who's got you?" Sorry for the tangent, I just love Superman and that movie so much. Endgame for sure. It's not everyone's favorite, but nothing will ever beat the raw emotions I felt during the last hour of that movie. By far the best cinematic experience I have ever had. I thought it was a great end to this part of the MCU, but for me Infinity War was the superior movie. From beginning to end you didn't know who was going to survive. Then making the villain the main character was genius. Thanos completely stole the movie, and I know that was intended, but it still had me hooked from the beginning. Pretty sure others have said it, but for me it's Iron Man, the first one to begin the entire franchise. RDJ is bloody brilliant and carries the film, and becomes one with the character. If this film miscasted, or if RDJ didn't nail it the way he did, there probably wouldn't be a Marvel movie franchise that we know. But honorable mention to Daredevil on Netflix. I know it's a show, and not a film, but it's pretty good. Daredevil is one of the best shows I've ever watched, period. Never been so gutted when a show was cancelled. I still bitch about it to my husband. Tim Burton's Batman. Jack Nicholson as the Joker and Michael Keaton as Batman. The gothic backdrop and dark tones of the film. I loved it, and still very much do. Push stars Chris Evans and a young Dakota Fanning. Interesting characters, interesting powers, and I like the world and setting a lot. Definitely an underrated movie. I had to look this up because I thought, that's the movie with Hayden Christensen. Now I know that Jumper was the movie I was thinking of, and that I have not seen Push. Will watch soon. Blade. Best vampire hunter movie to date, and first rated R Marvel movie. Thor Ragnarok. Are you Thor, the god of hammers? HMM. That hammer was to help you control your power, to focus it. It was never your source of strength. As someone who has had to have a second act, I needed that to remember that external circumstances don't define my worth. The payoff for the Led Zeppelin was unreal. Super, with Rainn Wilson, or Unbreakable, with Bruce Willis. Was really hoping Super was on here. Watched it recently, and it was a lot darker than I remembered. The first of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and the Michael Keaton Batman movies. Christopher Reeve was such a good Superman. He absolutely nailed the rural kid in the city vibe. He nailed the transitions between mild-mannered reporter and Man of Steel. That scene where he is in Louis' apartment and is getting ready to tell her who he is and takes off his glees and just becomes Superman. It's the closest answer we will ever get as to why no one recognizes that who even through it is just a pair of glees. It doesn't feel like we get stuff like that a lot anymore. It isn't because the actors can't do it, but because the writers or studio doesn't think we as an audience could get it, or appreciate it, or want it. Maybe? Shame. The Dark Knight, because of Heath's performance and Hans Zimmer. Michael Caine, Christian Bale, Morgan Freeman, Gary Oldman, Christopher Nolan in shambles. Chronicle. Unlike the Marvel movies, Chronicle provides a more gritty, real-life, documentary-style view on what regular people would do if they got superpowers, telekinesis, the juxtaposition of personalities, and how they utilize these powers in a slice of life is fascinating, and the evolution of the protagonist is incredible. The effects are fantastic, especially for the budget. That is the source to an otherwise great entree. Would recommend to a friend. Watch it. Now, it's more of a supervillain origin story than a superhero movie, but I loved it too. I especially love the way it starts off as a found footage type movie, with all the dodgy handled camera work you'd expect, but as the camera guy gets better with his powers, the camera work improves as well, because he's using his powers to control the camera. So clever. Mask of the Phantasm. Thank you. This and the flashback in Return of the Joker. Perfection. Ant-Man, because I had no expectations, and it blew me away. Similar. Ragnarok. Both movies were fun, and didn't take themselves too seriously, I felt. Ant-Man had the same charm to it that Iron Man 1 had. It didn't have the large-scale world-ending conflict or heavy integration with other heroes that most other MCU movies have. Winter Soldier. I love spy films, and Cause seamlessly blends superheroes with the spy genre. This is exactly why I have it as my #1 MCU MOIV. I love the progression they showed from Captain America in Avengers to Winter Soldier. Like, he's this well-rounded seasoned combat soldier doing covert missions. Doctor Strange. Best of the recent Marvel movies for sure. The kids all love Iwandeg, but Strange was so good. Wonder Woman. It wasn't really anything special as a movie itself, and I don't watch very many superhero movies outside of the MCU. I think it was just Gal and the Amazons being just badder and strong in their own right, and I walked out of that movie feeling like a little kid in admiration of this super cool hero. It's not that I wanted to delve too much into the feminism discussion or anything around this, but it was just this cool moment of having a badder hero I felt I could relate to or look up to in a childlike sense. I was looking for this comment. I felt my heart racing during the No Man's Land scene, and I felt like I could kick her after watching the movie. Deleted. Both Infinity War and Endgame were such insane movie-going experiences that may never again be replicated. I feel bad for people who won't experience something like that. Batman and Robin. Bat nipples. Bat credit card. 2 hours of ice puns. What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Man of Steel. I know it's divisive, and I actually didn't like it when I first saw it too, but over the years it has grown on me. Amazing soundtrack or inspiring visuals. I love the Kryptonian lore and aesthetic, the action, and General Zod had a perfectly understandable reasoning for his villainy. He was only looking out for his people. Edit. Also Henry Cavill as Superman. Physically the best and most accurate looking Superman to date. Not knocking Reeves. Just wish he'd have more time to show how hopeful of a Superman he can be. Cavill also loves Superman and totally understands him. Just hope he gets another chance to prove the naysayers wrong. On another note, Winter Soldier is also dope. Genuinely love Man of Steel. It's my favorite superhero movie as well. The two things they cold done to make a genuine masterpiece is fix the pacing so the back end isn't so action heavy, and adjust the color grading so color seeps back into Clark's world as he becomes Superman. The original color of the film is gorgeous. I'd love to see some of that reinstated. But yeah, Cavill? Perfect Superman. Perfect. And the action is much closer to how I picture a superhero battle to go. Much more visceral. Guardians of the Galaxy. It's got a great mix of comedy and actual good acting. It's a far cry from my favorite film, but it's definitely the best superhero movie I've seen. The Punisher, 2004, with Thomas Jane. Loved the darkness/reality and the lesser known character. Also has a decent cast and was a much darker setting than what most superhero movies were at the time. Honestly, I think if it would have been released after Nolan's Batman trilogy, that it would have done much better. It's actually kind of sad that a 4-star movie like this wasn't a bigger hit. I know it wasn't as dark or grim as what it should have been, but overall Thomas Jane did an amazing job. And the YouTube laundromat video they released years ago was excellent. If they would have made a sequel to the movie in that fashion, it might have been a complete turnaround for the franchise. The Firstman. I was into superheroes a bit when I was a kid, but it got me more into it. I hadn't seen a movie quite like it before. DOFP. It really captures the Byrne/Austin period of the comics for me. I know it gets a lot of hate, but underrated in my book. It's actually very well regarded as one of the best X-Men films, and I happen to agree. Sky High. The line, "I don't know what it is that you are teaching them here, but keep doing it." That film is pure fun from start to finish. Blank Man. Yeah, Blank Man was legit. It was a gritty and humorous kicker/realistic Batman before they were things. Was lame that people ignored Blankman, Meteor Man, and Steel when they were praising Black Panther. All three of those movies aged better than Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which were released around the same time and with high budgets. Okay, maybe Steel didn't. It's been a while. Captain America, Civil War. I love the clear and compassionate line it created in the fandom, with both sides having some very good points in who was right, Captain America or Iron Man. The movie was also fantastic, and I can't stress that enough. The end fight between Bucky, Cap and Iron Man cult have been better. It is, by far, my favorite of the MCU. That's the one where I realized that I'd cry my eyes out and die for freedom. Also, since I'm neither a superhero nor trained in any combat, I'd not be allowed to fight, and that both sides would tell me they were for freedom. The Crow. Brandon Lee was great. R.I.P. Would Galaxy Quest be considered a superhero film? Never give up. Never surrender. I don't think it technically counts, but I don't care, because the movie rocks. By Grabthar's Hammer. The Incredibles. Deadpool. Guardians of the Galaxy. The soundtrack. Watchmen. It's just gritty and the characters are awesome. Obviously I didn't read every comment, but I'm surprised I'm not seeing Big Hero 6. Damn good movie, Imo. Came here for Big Hero 6. It's much deeper than meets the eye, and toys with the very concept of hero and villain. That, and it's visually stunning. Can't watch it without tearing up in at least 3 spots. Serious movie. The Dark Knight fun movie. Spider-Man 3. The dancing scene alone is a masterpiece. I always hated when people hate on that scene. It was meant to be cringy as duck. That's what the suit did to him. It wasn't just some stupid scene they shoved in. Maybe not superheroes, but it's a tie between Kung Fury and Scott Pilgrim. Both are just super corny and fun to watch. The Boys. TV series, not a movie, but it really breaks down the superhero image. Mystery Men. He fell down an elevator shaft onto some bullets. Yes, I've always suspected foul play, as have I. Black Panther. It has a great story, great acting, amazing costumes and sets. Add in the social relevance and it's just superb. And yes, I would have said this before the protests. And in white, 67F. I'm not the biggest fan of superhero movies, so really just the fact that it was relevant to issues that matter to me made it far more immersive and engaging than the vast majority of them for me off the bat. The fact that those themes weren't simply added in for no reason, but ingrained in every aspect of the movie made it special. Tie between TDK and the first Iron Man. TDK because I particularly enjoyed everything about it, and Iron Man because finally an Iron Man movie. Hancock cause has an asshole who hates when people point it out. Anytime I think of Hancock I get irrationally pissed off because that movie was so good until they did a 180 and turned into an angelic romance movie. Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse. Its art is revolutionary, mimicking the click style and onomatopoeic text of the graphic novels it was based on. The Fifth Element. She wasn't just an alien tasked with saving humanity. She needed to believe first. She was a flawed god. This is more CF. If The Fifth Element is a superhero movie, then so is Star Wars. Don't get me wrong, it is one of my favorite and most rewatched movies, but it's not a superhero film. Spider-Man Homecoming. Still need to see the second one. Deadpool comes in second, but that's more anti-hero. Need to see the second one of that too. Homecoming so good. Vulture might be my favorite MCU villain. Nobody seems to have said it, so I'm going to pick Darkman. Love that film. The Dark Knight. First of all, it is a great standalone movie. Yes, it is part of a trilogy, but it completely holds up and makes sense in its own. I like that it has a very different feel to most superhero movies, especially the Marvel movies, which all feel very similar. Plus there are so many actors that give great performances that make the movie amazing. Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Heath Ledger, and Gary Oldman, just to name a few. The Avengers. It's a great ensemble movie with the right balance of humor, action, and character arcs. Incredible acting for something so silly. Directed by someone who is brilliant at ensemble movies. Could honestly have survived as a standalone. That one is still in the top 5 MCU films for me. It's the point in the MCU where the whole world just clicks into place for the first time. Spawn from 1997. It was my first superhero movie that I remember watching, and as terrible as I knew it was, I still watched it 7 times in a row in a weekend. I really like Jumper, just because I want that superpower. Rubber. Never before or since in the history of film has a character with superpowers been so relatable and worthy of admiration. The meta commentary within the film on cinema itself could spawn book after book on the topic. Yes, I was trying to explain this movie to my co-workers a few weeks ago and they couldn't believe it was real. Alvin and the Chipmunks vs Godzilla 3. My favorite movie. Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire just gets me with a lot of feels. Also one of the few superhero movies to be different. Everyone just copies the Dark Knight method now. Avengers Infinity War. Thanos wins. Oh my, you watched until the end? That's fucking awesome dude. Thanks for watching.